Welcome to your number one source for technological innovations, ideas, and strategies for your business. Multiply your business's equations and put the odds in your favor. Now, live from Club IT HQ with your hosts, Ben and Sam. This is Tech Factor.
All right, welcome everyone. I'm Ben.
I'm Ryan.
And this is another episode of The Tech Factor. We're talking today about AI, and we're actually going to do a few podcasts on this because if we covered AI in one podcast, it would be like Joe Rogan style. It would be going for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be white knuckling to get the drinks out, and it'd be a long, heavy podcast. So
Get another Red Bull out.
yeah, get another Red Bull out. I think realistically, we want to start with the basics. And so today we're going to be talking about what actually is AI. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone thinks they know what it is. And we also want to talk about what different AI technologies are out there. And then we're going to start to get into, in further podcasts, a bit more detail about some of these different types of AI systems and how they work. And more importantly, like how can you actually leverage and use them in your business. But today we're going to just start with the basics. All right. So welcome to the AI 101.
101, yeah.
And let's just start. So look, what the hell is AI, Ryan?
What the hell is AI? All right. So
Should we ask AI what AI is?
Yeah.
I think we did that for this episode.
So essentially AI, and if you just want to put it in simple terms, it just refers to the development of a computer system that can perform tasks typically that require human intelligence. So these intelligent machines can essentially learn, they can solve complex problems, they can essentially grab information out of a large data pool. You can get it to ARCs and do a lot of things. We'll get into different types of AI technologies.
Yeah, so that's right. So fundamentally, AI basically, it's essentially computer code or an algorithm that can reason, it can learn, it can figure things out, it can solve problems in similar ways that a human brain can solve problems, that the most typical human brains can solve problems, without as much of the reverse rationalization and other fun stuff you get with the human brain. Eventually, there's a law about physics law about not being able to develop something smarter than what you actually are. But I think humans could create something smarter than what the average human would be, without a doubt.
100%.
That wouldn't take much. But let's talk about, I guess, really the different types of AI, because it kind of leads into, explaining, again, we've explained what AI is, but really what it comes down to, and I guess what sort of, because there's plenty of some funny memes. I don't know if actually you can try and pull up one of the memes in Chrome while I'm doing this, but it's about the meme of like AI, and it's got like if then or something like that. Type in like AI, like secret if then meme or something like that.
Let's see what we can come up with.
Yeah. Actually, the Scooby-Doo one, that's probably it there.
I'll put it up on screen for.
Go full screen on it if you can.
There we go.
Can you? Yeah. So go full screen on the meme if you can.
All right. Let me get back to it. There we go.
Can we go full screen on it?
Oh, it brought us to a web page. That's okay. But
we need some AI to figure out how we do the podcast better. That's okay. Right click on it and that's all right. I said right click on the image and go view image, man. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's gone now.
Okay. The point is that there's jokes about AI about really it's just about a bunch of if and then statements. Now, computer logic in general is logic gates, and you could effectively argue that to some extent things are if then, but AI is a lot more than that, and really because this kind of leads into the hook of what I'm about to talk about with the first type of AI, which is machine learning. But basically AI is a series of different types of more complex algorithms than what we've previously done in computer programming. So it's essentially models to help classify, there's things called regression, clustering, and association, but it's different types of logic patterns within an algorithm for it to understand what to do or how to do something, or how to get to its outcome. Now, the first type of thing we're going to talk about, because I think, and it's a good base one to talk about, it's machine learning. Machine learning, everyone talks about, machine learning, it's a great buzzword. But in a practical sense, what that really is a bunch of different methodologies in how to get essentially a AI model to come up with some kind of output. And there are different methodologies and ways to achieve that. And that forms part of the machine learning framework, so to speak. Now, there are a range of different tools out there that allow you to do machine learning. And again, we can talk a little bit about some of those. One of the most popular ones is PyTorch, which is based on Python, a super powerful platform. But a lot of people utilize these types of platforms. I think you've got a little thing up there, don't you, on the screen?
Yeah, we'll get a little thing up there if you guys to quickly have a look at.
So yeah, but PyTorch, really cool platform, allows you to easily go through and train and develop your own AI systems and AI models, utilizing the algorithms that I've just sort of spoken about. I mean, I guess machine learning is sort of your base level of AI, which you can then extrapolate into sort of more refined, different types of AIs to do different things. One of the technologies that we've played with before, actually one of the more common things, I hate, again, trying to bring it back to what people know as AI. If you've seen deep fakes and like these pretend voices and stuff on the internet, that's been done with machine learning. They've trained an AI system, whether it be through audio or video, to learn what that individual or what that voice sounds like. It trains it and it generates an AI output through these algorithms that we've spoken about, utilizing machine learning. So like PyTorch is utilized heavily for effectively those AI voices where they go ahead and they'll generate custom. You would have seen the ones on the internet with like Donald Trump and all those guys.
Yeah.
And you type in what you want and Donald Trump will say it. I mean, that's almost like real life, except, he's got other strings that people pull. But yeah, so that type of stuff is done with machine learning. And PyTorch is one of probably the most popular platforms that gets leveraged as an open source platform to really take advantage of machine learning. So machine learning is your foundation of AI that you can build many really cool things upon. So what's the next one there we got in our list there? Right.
You want to talk about natural language processing and go into ChatGPT, or?
So yeah, well let's do that. I mean, so natural language processing, again, like you can leverage some of these machine learning platforms to actually create a natural language processing model. But natural language processing, basically, well, actually, I'll get you to explain it, and I'll go into a bit more detail. So, what actually is natural language processing?
It just essentially allows a machine to understand and interpret human language in a very basic description. But think of it almost as like a virtual assistant, or you can see it in like chatbots and things like that. So they can essentially respond to you. Whether that be, we've had implemented. In a couple of our clients, like how we've got that automated bus scheduling system for one of our clients and things like that. You've got,
so that's right. So basically, natural language processing is it's an AI model where again we're training the AI to understand human language, how to interpret what a human says and spit that out on the other end as something that's relevant. Now, the thing is, like, for a long period of time. And look, this is always, natural language processing is probably one of the biggest game changers in AI. And the reason for that is because for as long as computers have existed, like we've always struggled to be able to communicate with them in our language. That's where that barriers come up, particularly in what we do in our day-to-day. People are like, I'm trying to get my computer to do this. And they don't know how to communicate with the computer, I guess, or with the program they're interfacing with in the right way to get that output. They know, like in a human language point of view, I'm trying to build, we talked about this the other episode, Microsoft Copilot. I'm trying to build an Excel spreadsheet that's going to pull the profit and loss from the last 2 years and do this and do that or whatever. And they understand that in a human language point of view. But to a computer without AI, describing that is very different to describing how a human would actually explain that.
Yeah. Well, exactly. You have to use different terminology, and I think half the skill with using AI is knowing what to search or what to ask it. Well,
in this current iteration of AI, it is, and this is why, like, they're again partly the reason why natural language platforms like ChatGPT are still open and free is because they're trying to train it further, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to help like narrow it down and get that data so that they can, if a human puts in, how do I do this, or what about this or that or whatever. If it's slightly off, they can continue to train the model and perfect the model to understand the human language better. So
Which
it
can take years.
Well, that's it. It did take years. Like obviously with the GDP models, they've been over many, many years. There are other models out there, and the open source models are starting to catch up, which is where there's a bit of talk about regulation and stuff like that, because the big guys that spend billions on this are worried that the open source guys are going to take over, which it is quite possible. But look, there are a range of natural language models that allow you to, train the model so that it understands what you want and it can spit out some kind of output. And you can then leverage that within an API. You can leverage it in a chat interface like what ChatGPT does. I don't know if you want to bring up ChatGPT on the screen.
Yeah, I can bring up
If you've been living under a rock for the last 3 or 4 months now, this is what ChatGPT looks like. Just do a new chat for us.
Yep, we'll do a new chat.
Yeah, and what are we going to write? Anything really. So,
how to write a script for a podcast, for example.
Yeah,
and see what it spits out for us here.
Yeah, so it's again, so this information, so part of the thing with ChatGPT, it was trained with millions of articles through the internet, through places like Reddit, where where people have communicated backwards and forwards about these different types of things. And again, using that machine learning basis, it's able to connect the dots, figure out what it needs to say and how it can communicate that back to the human. So
yeah, and it does give you a quite extensive response, and you can refine that too if you want to say how to write a script on a podcast for this topic or something like that.
Well, one of the things, and we'll get into it in a further episode, we're going to have an episode just on natural language programming, but the key to certainly leveraging platforms like this early on in your business is how to actually frame a question to these types of platforms, because they are, again, they're still being trained on the best way to communicate with human language and how to best understand human language. So, but there are ways right now, there are sentence structures and ways that you can structure something to the natural language processing model to get really good output. So that's part of the trick.
Well, it's almost, I know the GPT model, ChatGPT and OpenAI, I know they kind of use a two-phase process where one, like you said, is the pre-training process where it kind of collects all that information out of a massive publicly available data pool and learns from that. And then you've got the fine-tuning stage where essentially you can fine-tune it to do specific tasks, or, you can make it more suitable for a particular application, pretty much.
Well, that's right. One of the things about all these natural language processing models are, particularly the open source ones, very easy for you to adopt in a business. But obviously with the ChatGPT stuff, they also have an API which you can also pay for. And you can then create your own custom model based off the ChatGPT model, which a lot of people are now starting to do. Again, we'll talk about it in another podcast. We'll get into the other types of AI, and we're going to get right into some of that stuff in more detail. The next one we want to talk about is computer vision. Do you want to just give me the quick sentence of what computer vision is, and I'll get into detail about what computer vision will actually do for you?
Yeah, so computer vision is another exciting area of AI. It essentially is just all about teaching computers to understand and analyze visual information, whether it be from images or videos, or you can teach it to learn a specific event. So say, for example, we actually had a joke about this earlier where when we were doing one of our advertising videos, imagine if you could teach it to, say, bend through a printer out the door or something like that.
Coming soon in a cinema near you. We have a very great little ad coming up for that soon.
No spoilers. If you could, if you could get that depth AI to, you could, if it filmed yourself throwing a printer out
enough times, it would know what someone looks like when they're throwing printers out. And that would be really useful for, I don't know, large organizations where you've got a lot of technology anarchy going on. I don't know. Yeah. No, but look, in a practical sense, let's talk about it. So basically what computer vision is, and I've actually got something here now that we've mentioned it.
Exciting.
Oh, exciting. So this is a AI kit. I don't know if that'll zoom in or not. We'll see how that focuses. And this is what a typical computer vision device might look like. So this is a machine AI-based computer vision. This is by a company called Luxinus. And essentially what you do with computer vision based AI is we're training it to see and understand the environment around it. Now, this doesn't work in the sense of how a traditional camera works. It uses stereoscopic technology, essentially like LiDAR, right, to sort of basically get a picture of or a vector of, or basically like, when you remember the movie The Matrix, and like Neo like sees the Matrix, right, sees the code. This thing sees the code around it, right? In a dumb way of explaining it, that's kind of what it does. And then you can train it to learn different things. So one of the more practical examples is in aged care, where it can learn what an elderly person looks like when they fall over. We train it to see what that is, and then it can pick it up, and then it can do something about it. It can go ahead, it can make a phone call. We could trigger something in another system or whatever.
It could make like an alarm system.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Well, the depth AI. You want to bring up the depth AI?
I can do that for you guys.
Yep. So flick that across in the. So the depth AI is super cool. Really cool thing about computer vision AI technology. So depth AI is really good at. You'll have seen this technology it's becoming more and more popular in CCTV systems, for it to be able to actually detect different types of objects and then record those events in the CCTV system. So it goes, some person has walked past, but it can be more specific. It said, a car went past at this time and this happened at this time, and a full breakdown. And we're going to see more and more of that in the camera CCTV systems as well. So I know that obviously there's big controversy about the big major stores using that stuff as well, right? Tracking people.
Well, you see it in some security systems at the moment, is where they've got like advanced human tracking features that and things like that can get implemented. But it's still relatively, I'd say, new, and it's still, we haven't really.
It hasn't taken off the way that natural language programming has taken off yet. That's for sure. But there's so much potential to it as well. So again, we can train it to learn what anything looks like in a visual sense, whether that be, there's some examples there you'll see in
good examples actually. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got one there. I think it's got COVID mask wearing as well, so we can detect whether someone's wearing a mask or not. Some really cool stuff. You see like how many fingers people are holding up, they're waving or whatever they're doing. They're just some examples there, but you could train computer vision to learn anything. And then once it learns that, you can say, well, what do you want it to do about that? So this really cool technology, computer vision AI.
Like fatigue detection, that's a cool one. And age, gender recognition.
There's a lot of... Well,
there's the COVID mask detection
there's just some examples that are built into the API, but you can train your own, obviously, you can train the computer vision to learn anything. And then you can make it do things as a result of whatever that is. So really fascinating stuff. It's going to become bigger and bigger, and great technology. Let's talk about... So I'm going to talk about expert systems and virtual assistants. I'm going to kind of combine this together because it's very much the same thing. It's just a bit of a different type of layer to it. So do you want to hit us off with that? And you can kind of just talk about a bit about virtual assistants, and we can throw in some stuff around expert systems as well at the same time.
Yeah, I suppose the virtual assistant is just an AI-powered software application that interacts with users and just provides them information and, can teach them how to perform tasks through natural language interfaces. So it's kind of like your own digital assistant. So you'll see it in the most common form is probably Cortana, when you always try to turn that off when you first
set up Windows
computer. And
shut up, Cortana.
Yeah. So otherwise, your more common ones that use like Siri, Google Assistant.
But I mean, if Copilot becomes a thing built into Windows, which it will.
It will, yeah.
It may actually legitimately be useful at some point.
Do you reckon it'll replace Cortana? Or?
Yes, 100%. 100% it will.
Yeah.
That's inevitable. But you're right. So Siri, Google Assistant, they're all starting to use more and more AI technology built into what they're doing to be able to actually do useful.
It's used
things,
in a lot of smart home devices too. Like Alexa. I'm not sure what the actual name of the software is that they call that, Alexa voice recognition, whatever it's called. But you see that a lot in smart home control devices too. So
Amazon have a range of AI voice technologies, like they call Amazon AWS Poly, and a few other systems that they use to actually generate AI voice and communicate. And so there's lots of really cool stuff that Amazon are doing as well. I guess so. Virtual assistants, again, really cool, practical, and it's still. They're still using machine learning and things like that underneath the surface. They're still using, if a virtual assistant is considered a type of AI technology, well, I mean, you're still having to use natural language processing to be able to communicate with your virtual assistant to do things as well. So there's a lot of overlap between these different types of AI technologies. One of the things they talk about as a separate system is expert systems. But again, you're training it to understand certain things. It might be a specialist industry. One of the discussions I've had with some people in local government, and I know that there are some people that are also working on this, as a practical example, the planning system is ridiculously complicated. So to actually go through and put a development application through, it's insane. Like you go, okay, well, how do I I want to build a deck. Let's go, okay, well, where the hell do I start? And normally you've got to engage someone with years of experience. Do I say, it's got to be this measurement, it's got to be this size, it's got to be this, that, and they've got to read through all the different planning documents to understand what's the what around it and what the specifications, solar access, all this stuff. And we're training expert systems to be able to actually know all that stuff, to learn the legislations, to learn how previous development applications have been assessed, and then able to provide practical outcomes there. So
almost in like a summarized format, you could.
Well, it's certainly it allows you to. So a lot of this type of stuff with expert systems, it will replace or it'll help train junior roles.
Yeah.
So it could be in the law profession. It could be, again, going back to, local government. There's plenty of applications for that. Government in general, there's heaps of applications. We waste a lot of time and money with bureaucracy and policies and little rules and regulations. If you can pump all that into an AI system and you can say, look, this is what I'm trying to do, give me the answer. It's going to be really quite practical in that regard. It's going to, probably have a couple less bureaucrats in Canberra. Not a bad thing. So AI will be really good for that. And there's a lot of areas of expertise where we can feed it, all of this experience from someone who's maybe experienced in the field, but then also the regulations and rules and the procedures around how to do different things. And it's going to be really good. So expert systems, a lot of potential with that. And Copilot, I guess, is kind of like to some extent, as I think we talked about the other earlier, it's like almost a hybrid between like expert systems and between virtual assistants, because with Copilot, you can do basic stuff. You can say, hey, look, I need to do this, and it'll do it for you. But then you can actually ask it to do some really complicated stuff, and it can do that as well, right?
Well, it's all kind of dependent on, like we discussed in other podcasts, it's because it's in a Microsoft environment. It all depends on how big your organization's data pool is, like how much information do you have that you can provide it with. Like you said, I know we always use the Excel one as an example, but it's a good example. If you've got years and years of years of reports that you want to try and summarize into working out if 1 month's profitable margin or things like that, the more data it has, and the more you can ask it, essentially, the better information it can spit out to you.
That's right.
Essentially,
yeah. And it can get quite complicated. So you can definitely do expert systems through Microsoft Copilot when that becomes publicly available for everyone. Look, I think that pretty much rounds out all the key AI systems. Is there anything we've missed there with that? Or?
I don't think so. I feel like that's pretty good for part one. I think it's
so that's a good summary. So today we've spoken about really some of the different key AI systems that are available now in 2023. And we've given you a bit of an idea of what AI actually is, because again, there's a lot of hype around it in the media, and everyone says AI, they just instantly think ChatGPT, but that's a very small portion of AI, and it's based on a bunch of principles and methodologies that you could do a wide range of different things.
It just goes to show, though, when you say ChatGPT and someone instantly recognizes that, how big it's kind of gotten so quickly.
Yeah,
it's something.
It's crazy because again, it's, and look, we will talk about natural language processing models in our maybe in our next podcast actually, because it's a good one to go on. But it's really the reason why it's caught on so much, and as I've said, it just bridges the gap between humans and technology. For a long time, it's been very hard to explain to a computer, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And then they're actually and they're trying to bridge that gap between what you can input to the computer and how you can explain it to the computer, and then how that outputs, to be able to talk to the computer in something you understand, and then for it to learn and understand you in return.
It's such a great learning tool. I wish I had it back when I was studying, because it really teaches you heaps. Like if it can give you the answer for, say for example, you could use it if you need to set up a specific model of phone or a computer or something like that. if you need to ask it to set up something, it'll give you specific information and a tutorial essentially on how to set up something for a particular model, a particular year model, everything like that, where something you'd have to put that into Google would take you ages to scale for.
The problem is, and the biggest issue Google has, and what we're starting to see now, Google's actually finally starting to admit it. So when Google first came out, it was awesome because you would type in what you wanted, you got exactly what you wanted. And over time, they're like, you know what? We want to make a shitload of money. Yeah. And so they're like, okay, how can we do that? Well, let's throw in some ads. We'll just throw in one ad. Actually, you know what? We'll just throw them in on the side. No one will notice them. And like, well, wait a minute. We're not getting more clicks. We want more money. Let's put them now in the first result in Google.
Well, can't people pay to get on the top?
Yeah, of course. Well, it's all. And then like, oh, let's make a bidding system. Oh, let's do intelligent ads. And then, oh, well, you know what? There are certain people, there are certain partners on the internet that we want to give them a little bit of preference to. We want to make more money off them too. So it got to this point where like the capitalism aspect of Google like eroded it. So, and obviously they changed from their do no evil. They got rid of that. They're like, you know what? Let's do a little bit of evil. Like we don't won't go full evil, but a little bit of evil makes you give good money. So I mean, Wagner Group made $2 billion or something out of Russia. So on Google, I'm sure it does very good out of a little bit of evil. So they do a little bit of evil and, they make a bit more money. But then the result of it is over time, the actual search experience is continually degraded. Yeah. And that's why Microsoft jumped on ChatGPT so quickly. They're like, wait a minute, this will replace, and again, they haven't worked out how they're going to obviously generate profit off the model, but I guess the API will ultimately deliver that through that connectivity as well.
That's a big selling point, and they add it as an add-on to the license rather than something that's included in the license, then that's how they make it.
And that's why they straight away made the GDP model private. As soon as Microsoft brought it out, they're like, wait a minute, this is where the money is. So, so Google, you used to be able to type in what you wanted, you used to be able to get it. Now you get, I think it's 4 ads before you actually get the result. Then those results are heavily curated towards what's going to be useful for Google. So it's not, which isn't always useful for the actual individual end user. So that's where AI is going to change that. Like AI is going to change the way we look and search for information, the way we interpret information, as you've said, and that natural language processing. That's why it just stands out, because it's just such a big change in everything we've done, and it's such a big disruption.
Just stops the need to search for countless websites to get what you actually want.
Yeah, and you can explain in simple terms what you want in a better way than, again, like it's. It was unintentional, but maybe it might have been intentional at some stage. But it will ultimately, and that's what Google are worried about. It's going to replace Google, So that's their biggest threat and their biggest concern right now is natural language processing models will allow you to type, and you may have specialist ones. You're right, as we talked about. In the future, it may not be just Google. You might be like, all right, well, I'm going to go to like lawsearch.com, and it's going to, I can type in what I want in those, we talk about those expert systems and all that type of stuff, and I can get exactly the information I want of that. Because you can have a specifically trained model on legislation or law, specifically trained model on something else. And so you can then go to these other websites and you can have these talk to these other models that will give you even more specific and more refined and trained information. I feel, that would be awesome.
Yeah. I feel like it'd definitely take off in on a government's website where you have to like search and look up WHS regulations.
Like good luck going to like you go again. I don't fortunately go to many websites these days, but like Centrelink, right? Good, like I don't want to swear too much on this podcast.
Good luck.
But good luck trying to find what you want, right? Like a zillion pages, none of it makes sense. You slap an AI model on there and boom, people can actually type in what they want. They can get exactly what they want and get in a language they understand, which again, bureaucrats speak a whole other language. There could be literally a model trained on the language of bureaucrats, and you could type in plain English, I want this, and actually interprets it and spits out the answer. But yeah, look, there's so much to talk about that stuff. We'll get into natural language in our next episode on AI. But that really is a really good breakdown, a bit of an intro into AI. Obviously, what the trends have been there, the different types of AI, and really what's to come. So it's pretty exciting.
It's been a good informative episode on the podcast for me as well, because I'm still relatively new to this. So it's good to get the wizards.
Oh yeah, we're all learning, man. We're all learning, but it's super exciting. So that's AI, and this is our first part of our exciting podcast on AI. I'm Ben.
I'm Ryan.
We'll see you guys next time. Peace.